on the Texas A&M Sports Network. From Learfield, live from Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue on Harvey Road in College Station. Welcome to the Aggie Soccer Hour with Coach G. Brought to you by Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. Visit Rudy's.com to find real Texas barbecue near you. St. Joseph Health, the leading healthcare provider in the Brazos Valley and official healthcare provider of Texas A&M Athletics. And by The Pool Guide, a proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. Now, the Aggie Soccer Hour with Coach G.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Aggie Soccer Hour with Coach G. I'm David Ellis. Alongside is Texas A&M head coach G Guerrieri. And if you're out and about traveling around Bragg College Station this evening, well, first of all, be careful. But I got a good way for you to come in and not have anybody run into you or you run into anybody else, and that's come into Rudy's Barbecue and have some of that great Rudy's Barbecue. You can't beat it. You know that. And as well, you get to visit with Texas A&M head coach G Guerrieri. And then I should tell you that in the second segment, we're going to have Margo Matula and Sydney Fuller on the show tonight. And then in the third segment, we're going to have Dr. Dan Childs, who will be in. He's Executive Associate AD for Academics and Student-Athlete Engagement. I had an opportunity to meet him, 2-3 weeks ago. We sat and talked to each other during practice, and really a great guy and knows a lot of stuff. And academics, obviously, incredibly important to the Aggie soccer program. All you have to do is look at the academic achievements that they've had over the years, and you know that. But he's also now involved with student-athlete engagement. We'll get him to explain what that is, what it means, and what it portends for the future. So Margo Matula and Sydney Fuller in the second segment, Dr. Dan Childs in the third segment. Let's go back and talk, G, about the games last week. I want to talk about Missouri and then Oklahoma, but I also wanted to talk about Tourney Gold because that was the Sunday game, and always something that's very, very important to Texas A&M soccer. So where do you want to start? With Missouri first?
Well, sure. That was the order of things, and and really it was the third of a long trek of road swing. It was to go on the road 3 times in a row, and coming back from New England, getting in at 4:00 in the morning on Monday, and then turning back around and leaving Wednesday morning was that was a tough swing for the players, and then to go up and having to go into right into another battle and to start the SEC swing on the road was a real challenge for the players. I was pleased to get out of there with 3 points and a win, and for it to be win number 500 made it even better.
Yep, absolutely.
And I thought by and large it was what we needed. It was a game where we knew that Missouri was going to be a team that was going to be physical. We knew that it was going to be a game where it was going to come down to could we handle the press that they were going to try to put us under. They're an athletic side. Stephanie Golan, I think, does a great job as far as having them motivated, organized, and especially at home. They've been really, really good this season. So those were the challenges that we were up against, and it came down to kind of a battle from a set piece, a quick corner kick, little combination on the side with Mia Pante getting in the ball to Sydney Sydney Becerra, swinging a ball in, and then Margo Matula, you'll see here in a little bit, got on the end of a ball and pushed it past the goalkeeper at the near post. So 1-0, and then we didn't exactly manage the last part of the game as well as we'd like. We have some issues that we were able to learn from, but we were able to get it over the finish line and get out of there with another shutout win.
Yep. For the Aggies, 18 shots on the night, 8 of which were on frame. Just 9 shots for Missouri. They put 2 on frame, but there were some close calls in there, particularly in the second half for Texas A&M. But our other guest here tonight, Sydney Fuller, did a great job in goal for Texas A&M and got the shutout for the Aggies. And I don't know what it is about going to Columbia. Missouri, they are so incredibly tough to play when you go up there. I mean, they just make things hard.
Well, we don't have to mention the last time we went up there.
No, we're not. I didn't bring that up.
Yeah, but it was, just it was rain. It was a lot like it is out here today. It was raining and a little bit chilly, but it is. They're a tough team. I mean, they put a lot of pride in the way that they're going to play physical, and they're going to muck things up a little bit and make it difficult for you. But that's just kind of, the SEC is filled with really good athletes and athletes who are going to, they're going to put it on the line. And I remember talking, hearing a little bit from the new teams in the SEC. You've got two Big 12 teams now who have come over, and just kind of hearing their commentary a little bit about, wow, these people are really kind of taking it serious. This is kind of what's going on. They really look at this is a big. They see this as a really big win for them over us. No, it's just another SEC game, is all it is, and that's they say it just means more, and that's they're kind of looking at this,
they're learning
and realizing that there's a lot of really good athletes, there's a lot of really good coaches in this league, and to get a win is a big deal, and that's the way it was for us on Thursday night, and. You come home, you're gonna have to battle to get to get a win at home too.
And there are no Iowa States or Kansas States in this league. There's just not any.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit during the broadcast of the game on Sunday. And I've talked to you about this before, and I talked to Matt Mott, the Oklahoma coach, about it. The top 3 or 4 teams in the SEC are really 4 or 5 teams are really, really good, and some of the best in the country. And our top 4 or 5 is as good as or better than the other power conferences in terms of the first 4 or 5 teams in the conference. But what makes the SEC different is that you go down to the last 4 teams, or last 5 teams in the standings in the SEC, and they are still good teams. They are still hard to play.
And they can beat the top 4 or 5 teams.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, it's the depth in this conference that makes it difficult.
You just don't get a night off.
You
and
don't.
That's the way it is. And the other part of it, too, is that if you have a brain fart, you can be punished for it. And that's frankly, that's what happened to us on Sunday. We made two fatal errors, and Oklahoma was good enough to punish us for it. And we controlled most of the match. We controlled most of the situations, but we made two blunders, and they scored on them, and we didn't punish them for their mistakes. And we ended up losing the game 2-1 on a game that frankly we shouldn't have lost. But they were good enough to get the results, and we're kind of kicking ourselves for it. But that's one of the reasons why they are 8-2 and we're 6-4 is because we didn't finish off the chances that we needed to finish off.
Exactly, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Go to the game on Sunday. It was the Turn It Gold game, a once-a-year event for Texas A&M soccer, and that was this Sunday. And by the way, those Turn It Gold jerseys were sharp looking.
Yeah,
I have to tell you. There you go. I got one right there. I have to tell you that I've not been a big fan of the maroon and yellow horizontal stripes. But these jerseys are good looking. I really like them.
It's funny, but a lot of people prior to the game, they were like, "So are these going to be the maroon and gold stripes?" And because I brought one over to the fan zone prior to the football game on Saturday. I was with KBTX, and they did their morning show, even though it was a football game at night. And they were like, "Oh, wow, that's different. That doesn't look like the old ones." And they were commenting on how good it looked. And Adidas did a really good job on it. You got to give Alyssa Motz, our assistant coach, does all of our fashion, and thank God it's not Seth, it's not Phil, it's not me, she does all of our coordination with Adidas on the different jerseys, and she was one who worked with Adidas on the design of these.
You're
did a great job.
You're kind of like I am. I'm not even allowed to buy my own clothes. So
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
But yeah, they look really, really good, and so. Talk about how much money you raised and and I think part of this is still going on, is it not?
I believe so. I think that I know that something in the range of over $20,000 has been raised, and it's been nice. I know we've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in the 10 years that we've worked with Turn It Gold, and I don't know, Thomas, is the auction closed now? Do you think? Yeah, the auction is closed now.
All right. So, but again, this is such a huge effort that Texas A&M puts on now. It's spread now, not just A&M soccer. It's spread to the A&M baseball team. They've kind of adopted this cause as well, correct?
They did, and the Turnip Gold has worked with University of Ohio in the past. Their football team has worked with them, so they do a big football event in the fall. But we've done this now. Again, this is the 10th year that we've been doing it since 2014, and baseball took them under their wing this past year, and we're allowed to do one game a year, and somehow baseball was able to do one series a year. Kind of one of the deals of us being able to, we only have 20 games, but they have I think baseball plays
156. Yeah, 162.
No, that's Major League
That's
Baseball.
Major
Right?
League, yeah.
So they play, I think, 54 games or something like that.
Right.
So,
I think you're right.
so
I think
they
it's
have a
54.
series. They played a series, and they get to do an entire series, a home series. So they do it in the spring. So it's really cool. So they get a whole series in the spring where you can come out and they have a Turnip Gold series. So be on the lookout for that again. And the women who do this, Michelle, and then they're Aggie moms. And you don't mess with Aggie moms, because when they get their teeth into something, they are absolutely, fantastic on it, and they do a wonderful job.
Absolutely, just go to the Googles, Turnip Gold Foundation and
.org,
and there's plenty of ways to donate directly to the Turnip Gold Foundation. And I know with the money that's raised through Texas A&M, every single solitary dime that's raised goes directly into cancer research to help find cures for juvenile cancer.
That's right. There's so many of these foundations that 40% might go into overhead and salaries and all that kind of stuff. That's not the way it is with this group. This group, 100% of it goes in. Everything that they do is voluntary, and that's kind of how you want your money to go. You want the money to go right into the cause that you're paying for, and that's saving kids. That's what this is all about.
Absolutely. All right, so let's go ahead and again, the Aggies had a disappointing result against Oklahoma, 2-1 on Sunday.
Yeah, only the third time in 20 games that we didn't get the win. So
yeah,
that was disappointing. But again, it's something that in this league you're going to play quality teams. I mean, Oklahoma I think is number 14 again, 14 or 15 in the RPI. So I mean, quality side. Hats off to them. The girl who went down, that they had to call the ambulance on, she's okay.
Yeah, Abby McNulty.
Yeah, she was released from the hospital that afternoon and went home on the team bus. So I know a lot of people were asking about her, and she's just fine.
Absolutely. And I like you, I didn't realize you had talked to Coach Mott. I sent him an email after I got home from the game Sunday afternoon, and that's what he told me. They went in for observation, everything checked out, and so she's good to go. So that's a really good deal, because that was a scary play. It's one of those things that happens in soccer. There wasn't even a foul call, much less a card issued. It's just one of those things that happens sometimes. It was a collision. It happened, and but she's fine. All right, now let's talk a little bit SEC standings. I looked at the SEC standings, and you've got Arkansas, Mississippi State, and South Carolina on top with 6 points. Auburn, Tennessee with 4 points, and then a big group with us in it: Georgia, LSU, Texas A&M, and Oklahoma, all with 3 points. Here's the cool thing: we were talking about this. I was talking about this with Sydney and Margo before the show started. You look at who Texas A&M has to play. I mean, it is such a opportunity.
That's right. Well, just this week alone.
Yes. Auburn is number 5, I think, in the Top Drawer Soccer poll. They are number 8 in the coaches poll. And then you got University of Texas on Sunday. I mean, these two quality sides. And the Aggies have got Mississippi State later on, Arkansas later on. I mean, we've got a schedule full of opportunities.
That's right. But what are you going to do with the opportunities is the question that we were talking about today. And we are good enough to get results in these games, and we're also good enough to not get them. So because these teams we're playing are quality sides. So we have 8 games left in the SEC schedule, and let's see what we can do with them.
You were talking about earlier about how any team can beat any other team in the SEC, and the difference between the top and the bottom being very small. Here's a great example. Thursday night, you've got Vanderbilt, who goes into Auburn, Auburn ranked 6th in the country at that time. They're now number 5.
Had not given up a goal all season.
Yes, and Vanderbilt is tied for 11th in the conference, and they go in and tie Auburn 2-2 in Auburn.
Right.
I mean, that's the way this conference is. You got Florida, who hasn't done much this year. They travel to Kentucky and tie them 0-0. It's full of examples where the difference between winning and losing is so small. Mm-hmm. The difference between the top and the bottom is so small that if you're not on your A game when you go into there in the play, somebody's going to hand your head to you, and that's just the way it is. It's just the way
or
it is.
Something else.
Or something else, exactly. It's just the way it is. I mean, and this game on Thursday, Auburn and Texas A&M gets underway at 7 o'clock out here at Ellis Field. You need to be sure and be out there against number 5, Auburn. And then Sunday, over at the University of Texas in our state capital, the Aggies will take on the Longhorns at 6 o'clock on Sunday evening. So
yeah, and that game is in the track stadium.
Yes.
It's right next to the football stadium. It's right next to their new basketball arena. So, I think you can park probably. I think there's parking garages over there. That's the place to park. But again, traffic is even though it's a Sunday, traffic is always a nightmare over there. So please plan accordingly if you're coming over on Sunday. If you're coming back from the football game up in Arlington, Thomas Dick has reminded us that if you're coming back and you come down 35, there's plenty of Buc-ee's on the way between Arlington and Austin. You can make a few stops. You can get there pretty easily to give yourself plenty of time to get there and be there for the 6 o'clock kickoff. And we're expecting probably a pretty good crowd over there. It's a giant stadium, so it never looks too full, but it's always whenever we come to town, there's usually a pretty good crowd there.
Oh, it is. And you'll be able to watch both of those games on the SEC Plus network, as well as listen to them on 97.3 FM or your 12th Man mobile app or your Radio Aggieland app. So all of those will be available. But come on out to Ellis Field on Thursday.
Yeah, we need you on Thursday night out at Ellis. 7 o'clock kickoff is should be a nice night on Sunday at 7 o'clock. And again, the game at Ellis, when you got a top 5 team coming to town, that's when the 12th man's really needed out at Ellis Field.
Yeah, it is. I talked to Coach Matt Mott before the game, and he asked me, he said, when does it cool off down here? And I said, after you leave. And that's what it goes. I figured it was something like that. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with Margo, Matula, and Sydney Fuller right after this. You're listening to Texas A&M Soccer, the Aggie Soccer Hour with Coach G. Barbecue on Harvey Road. We've got Blake back at the studio and Kevin Munchow over here to my right. It takes a village to get Coach G and I on the air and keep us on the air. And these two guys fortunately help us do that. And we are joined now by 2 players, Margo Matula and Sydney Fuller. We're going to talk to them. But first, as you always know, we're here at Rudy's Barbecue. And we have a tradition here. This is the 171st Aggie Soccer Hour, okay? So for most of that time, we have been doing this. We have asked one of the players to read the Rudy's commercial. And so, Sydney Fuller is going to read it for us tonight. And just, here's the deal, Sydney. I mean, in all the time we have done this, nobody has ever messed this up.
Oh,
okay? So anyway, just go ahead and just read it,
all
okay?
Right,
Sell
ready.
barbecue.
Okay.
All right.
Soccer and barbecue lovers know the perfect brisket needs the right wood. Rudy smokes all their meats using their delicious signature rubs and 100% oak-fired pits. Get your real Texas barbecue fix today at Rudy's or on the web at rudys.com.
There you go. Nailed it. Nailed it.
Yeah.
All right. 171 in a row.
Let's go. All
right. You got it. Well, thank you, Sid. And again,
you thought the goalkeeper was just going to eat the paper. That's good.
Yeah. Okay. I'll admit that did cross my mind.
Yeah. So there you go.
But you stood up for your profession very, very well.
Tried my best.
So on my far left, number 22, Margo Matula, sophomore from St. Pius High School. All she did last year was be on the selected for the SEC All-Freshman team, and she was the Texas A&M Newcomer of the Year, and she was SEC first-year academic honor roll, and played and started every game, I think. Is that right, Margo?
Almost every game.
Okay, yeah, you might have missed one or so, but that's about it. And you, of course, started every game this year. And then to my immediate left, where's number 0 is Sydney Fuller. She's a freshman, as I mentioned, from Keller High School down in Keller, Texas. And gosh, you came in and have just been outstanding. And so I wanted to ask, we actually had a couple of questions here. Margo, first of all, this is a question. You got 2 Sydneys on the field, okay? You got Sydney Fuller out there, and then you got another Sid in the midfield, right? How do you call one of them something and another something else?
Honestly, the Sids are the hardest ones. They both go by Sid, and they both will turn. But we have 2 Taylors, 2 Emmas. The Taylors, one's Taylor and one's TJ. Then the Emmas, and then what is the other?
Graces.
Oh, Graces. We have Jivy, which is Grace Ivy, and then Grace McClellan, which we call her Gigi. So those we have names for, but honestly, the Sids, you know.
So
just
Sid,
look and hope someone responds. I think G referred to me as like tall Sid the other day, so that's a new one.
That works.
Maybe we'll go with that for a little
while. You got
while.
Sydney Becerra in the midfield, and then Sydney Fuller back at goal. And you know, I've always kind of wondered that, whether that, because you have to do a lot of communicating out on the field, and particularly you at goalkeeper, you're talking to your back line all the time, and you, Margo, are talking to the midfield and to the back line a lot. I mean, and there's an awful lot of communication that goes on, but you end up adopting these kind of nicknames for each other to tell apart. Gee, what was it we had a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, we had 3 players of the same first name.
Yeah, well, Phil is usually the best at coming up with the different nicknames, and you know, and so I typically just sit back and let him come up with, and oftentimes they have nothing to do with the name itself, you know, and so like Jivy is a good one, you know, and Georgia Leb is Jeb, you know, and oftentimes the girls will just cringe at whatever, you know, he comes. Jeb is a good one. It's cringeable, I think, by Georgia, but you know, it just kind of, you know. Oftentimes it'll just kind of flow with the way it goes out there. So
and of course I really can't use those kind of nicknames on the broadcast, so I have to say both names in order to keep it from getting confused. And it'll come to me later when I stop trying to think about it. But we did have 3 players with the same first name, and I asked you not to recruit anybody else with that name for a couple of years, just to cut me some slack.
Well, it's funny how, you know, it's like you know, the name of the generation sometimes comes into play.
Exactly. All right, Cindy, what's been the biggest change to step up from playing high club soccer and high school soccer to step up and play now Division I soccer at an elite conference and an elite league for an elite team?
I mean, like you said, it really is a completely different level, and I think kind of what you were talking about too, especially once you get into SEC play, is every single team is good and anything can happen at any given moment. So you really just have to go into every game with such like this tunnel vision every time you play, knowing that like you're not just playing for yourself here. You're not playing to get recruited like you were at the high school level, but here you're genuinely playing for your teammates, for your coaches, for your school, and you're representing every single time you go out. And I mean, it can be a lot of pressure, but I like to think of it as more of an opportunity than pressure, because a lot of people don't get this opportunity, and it's a really special thing to experience.
So, Margo, do you ever get tired of having to answer questions about being having a sister on the team and Macy?
No, honestly,
That's
I
good,
don't.
because I'm going to ask you that. So what's it like? I mean, she's a senior now, so you've had an opportunity to play, you know, last year and now this year with your sister. And for people who don't know, Margo is playing center back and Macy is playing left back. So do you guys talk a lot on the field, and do you talk after the game? Do you talk together about, you know, with your parents and that sort of thing? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a sister dynamic, so most people don't see us fight. We try to leave that off the field, away from teammates, but I mean, every once in a while we'll get into it. But on the field, it's very nice, I guess you could say, but we know how to get each other going, like certain things we say, or just like giving a certain look, so that definitely helps, like to pick somebody back up that maybe somebody else on the field can't do as easily. And then after the games, we both go to our parents. So it's just kind of nice, big old family. But it'll definitely be sad to see her go. And next year won't be the same without her.
Yeah, because she's been very, very good for 4 years for Texas A&M. All right, we talked a little bit before the show started. 6-4 for the Aggies so far. This is not where you want to be. And Coach G and I talked about it. The great thing about it is that you have all of these opportunities in front of you. And Margo, I'll ask you, having be the elder of the two, what's the team been talking about, and what are your expectations for this week?
The expectation is to win. We've always had that expectation. We know we can do it, so we need to execute. Like you said, our record is not what we want to be at, but the opportunities we have this week, Texas, great component. We should win. We should win against all these teams. We have the ability to, so we just need to perform and execute and get the result we want. So,
Sydney, again, as a freshman, the first time to go through this, what are your thoughts going into this week, playing two ranked teams? Your thoughts about this week and the preparation for this week?
Mm-hmm. I mean, we just have so much to gain from this week. These are both, as Margo said, games that we can win 100%. And we have so much to gain, like beating really highly ranked opponents. So I think it's really all about coming out with the right mindset, because we have the talent, we have the players we need. If we can just walk into that mindset that we know we need to go out and really perform against these teams, then I think we'll be just fine and we can come out with the result that we've been wanting all season.
I want to ask you each one more question, because I haven't touched on anything from the academic side right now, but so, Sid, what's your interest? I'm not going to ask you necessarily what you're going to do for your career, because you still got a lot of sorting out to do. That's all right. I tell people that I was 65 years old before I finally figured it out, so it's okay. But is there something that you're kind of gravitating to from in terms of a career and classes that you found that you really enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, so far I've just been pursuing a business major. I know that a business major from A&M is a pretty good, or a business degree is a pretty good degree to have.
Yes, it is.
So I've just kind of been pushing myself towards just leaning into that, and it's been fun so far. I have some of the other freshmen are also business majors, so we've been able to schedule a lot of our classes together, which has been super helpful. And I've enjoyed it so far. I mean, A&M is just such a great school, great professors, and great people. So it's been enjoyable so far, and trying to maintain the student and student athlete sometimes, Yeah,
it's tough. It is tough. So Margo, you last year academic honor roll in the SEC. What are you thinking about doing with your career, or have you figured it out yet? And you don't have to know.
Not at all. So. I'm going to get a sports management degree, but I'm not quite sure what I want to do with that yet.
Fair enough.
I might want to play professionally if that's an option, or I know I want to stay in the sports realm, so that's why I decided to do this degree. But honestly, I don't know what I want to do with it yet, so I'm very open.
Okay, good enough. All right, that is Sydney Fuller on my immediate left. On the other side, on Sydney's left, is Margo Matula. Full season of soccer ahead, huge games ahead. We wish you the very, very best. I know you guys have a very busy week. Thank you for taking time to come out and visit with us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break.
Ladies.
And go ahead.
I just said thanks, ladies.
Oh, all right. We'll be right back right after this. It's the Aggie Soccer Hour with Texas A&M head coach G Guerrieri. Harvey Road. If you're out and about, it's getting to be dinner time. You can swing on by Rudy's Barbecue. They got some of those, well, you know what it is. It's pork ribs, bayback ribs, pulled pork, brisket, turkey, and it is getting close to the weather for that stew that they make. That is so very good. So just need to get a little bit colder, but it is really, really good. So come on out here to Rudy's Barbecue. If you do, you get to sit down and talk with Texas A&M head coach G Guerrieri, as well as our next guest. And G, I will let you introduce. We're very lucky to have this man not just on campus, but here with us on the show tonight.
Yeah. So our special guest tonight is Dr. Dan Childs. Dan is number one. He's a good good guy. He's one of the good guys in college athletics. But Dan is our sport administrator. He is our athletic director in charge of Texas A&M soccer. But Dan has been with Texas A&M for a while. He's had a lot to do with Aggie football. He's had a lot to do with all of Texas A&M athletics in that he is the head of all of our academic services. So, Dan, why don't you talk a little bit about, number one, welcome.
Okay, thanks.
We're glad to have you here.
Right.
Why don't you talk a little bit about kind of your path to Texas A&M? Where were you before you came to Aggieland?
So I originally started out at the University of Kentucky. I was working as a...
Well, where did you go to school?
Okay, great. So I started out as I played football at Alabama A&M in Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay.
And so I ended up, I'm a Kentucky native, and so once I was done playing, I returned to Kentucky, and I was looking to still remain around athletics. And so the opportunity came for me to kind of, at University of Kentucky, I knew someone there, and I started out as a GA, kind of working with student athletes and student services. And so from that, I was able to promote it to an advisor role. And so my first job was basically working with Olympic sports, basically providing services, tracking, monitoring, working with student athletes, helping them pursue their degrees. And so I did work with swimming and diving, track and field, just a number of sports. And I knew that eventually if I wanted to continue to grow in the profession, I wanted to take on more responsibilities, that I would probably need to work with one of the revenue sports. And so the opportunity didn't come about at University of Kentucky. And so I think it was around 2008, an opportunity came at Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. And so I jumped at the opportunity, got the job, came down here. I'd never been to Texas before. And I came in and really liked it. I really enjoyed working with the staff at the time. Back then, it was just a two-person operation working with football academics. And myself and another person, and he did half the team, I did the other half. And so I started doing that, and I did that for about several years. I would say 6 or 7 years, just working with football and kind of being the advisor, kind of helping them pursue their degrees and so forth. And so with that, with experience, and I took on some more responsibilities, and then from there I started overseeing other units within academics. And I've grown. I've been at Texas A&M, I guess, going on 16 years now.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So who was the coach? Who was the coach in 08? I'm trying to remember.
It was Mike Sherman's first year. Was my first year.
Okay, so that's a good guy.
Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed working with him, and I learned a lot there. And so worked with him for the first 4 years, and from then to Kevin, and from Kevin on.
Right.
And so, but it was a good experience, just kind of learning how to work with that particular population, that student, and getting to know about Texas A&M, the traditions, the different rigor, the academics requirements here at Texas A&M. It was all very much a learning experience, and so it was fun.
Yeah, because people may not be aware of this, but I mean, at Texas A&M, there are no basket weaving classes, okay? I mean, this is a tough academic school. Okay?
Very much
You've
so.
got to be able to make the grade academically.
Yes, and that was what I learned very early on. I would just say, and the girls, probably the student athletes can speak to this, the math requirement here is very challenging. There's other classes that are very different than what I was used to in my previous institution. So there was a lot of work that went into it. And so, we have a great facility and center for student athlete services, and I think that's one of the main reasons we've had the success we've had over recent years.
Yeah. So now, one of the newest additions to the athletic, the cavalcade of star facilities, is the newest, with the latest football additions, has been the Sin Center. So why don't you talk a little bit about that new facility that is basically your baby?
Yes. So it is the Adam Sin Academic and Wellness Center. We opened in August, and it's a $57 million facility, three levels. And so it's like a one-stop shop for student athletes. Basically, on the first level is our nutrition dining facility, along with NIL, which is, I'm sure you heard quite a bit about that, as well as nutrition. And so they're all located on the first level, along with student athlete engagement. Then second level will basically be sports psychology, working with students in sports psych, and then also academic services. And then the third level is basically learning services, mentors, working with student athletes to help them with their classes, time management, develop those skills to be successful in the classroom. So it's all kind of a one-stop shop. You know what I mean? If they're not in class or not in practice, 9 times out of 10 they're going to be in our area utilizing some of those services in some capacity.
Yeah, and so we've been fortunate. I mean, I'd like to say that building was built specifically for the soccer players, but it's kind of worked out well in that all of the services that have been built for the guys who need those helmets has gone to, and to keep those guys eligible in a lot of cases and keep everything moving forward, has made it to where our players have gone from being solid B students to solid A students. With our grade point average, we have about a 3.68 grade point average on our team, and has just made it to where every one of them has been able to just excel in all of their classes.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to ask about Dr. Child's actual full title is he's Executive Associate AD for Academics and Student Athlete Engagement, and as Coach G said, on top of that, he is the sports administrator for soccer. Tell me about student athlete engagement. What does that mean?
Okay, so basically, I oversee, there's basically 3 areas. Number 1 is the academic advising piece, which is kind of making sure the students are in the correct classes, working towards graduation. We're tracking and monitoring them on the grades and how they're doing academically. And so that's one phase of it. Then there's a learning services phase, which is basically focused on the tutoring, the mentoring, overseeing the folks that kind of work with them day in and day out to make sure that the assignments are getting done. Okay. Then the third phase is student athlete engagement, which is helping prepare student athletes for life after sports. Okay. So a lot of things they're doing over the course of 4 years is programming. We just did a job mixer last night where we had 20 companies come in, and student athletes were able to kind of visit with different employers, internships, job opportunities. So student athlete engagement is all about preparation. They do an etiquette dinner, they do a life skills, they do career development, they do selfless service, so they're doing things in the Bryan College State community.
Sure.
So it's all about helping them develop those transferable skills with helping them with life after sports.
Exactly. I mean, that's a huge thing, because that gives these students a leg up on everybody else. And we talk all the time about the Aggie network. Well, this kind of fine tunes the product that you're turning out in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. We understand that we want to play sports as long as we can, but at some point it's going to end. And so we want to make sure that when it does end, they can transition to whatever life has in front of them, whatever job opportunities that are out there. And
so with your title as Executive Associate AD, Academics and Student Athlete Engagement, do you have a normal sized business card, or do you can you fit all that on there?
I'm running work. I don't have enough work now.
You got kind of an accordion type thing and go.
Thank God for a website.
There you go.
Well, I know you got plenty of stuff to do, and I can't thank you enough for stopping by. Happened to meet Dr. Childs we were both at practice, and I sat down and introduced myself, and he introduced himself, and we just started talking, and I said, we got to get you on Coach G's show.
I appreciate you bringing it on, and I always say this is one of the best opportunities to work with G and his staff. Number 1, like I said, he mentioned it earlier, we have the highest team GPA of all the teams, so it makes my job easier, and it's a great unit to work with. The girls are awesome to work with, and I'm excited about the season, and hopefully to continue to do well.
I think they will.
Yeah.
So, again, thank you so much.
Right.
We appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Dan.
Again, that's Dr. Dan Childs, Executive Associate AD. Appreciate you taking time to stop by. We're going to come back to the final second, the race to the finish, and we'll be back right after this. It's the Aggie Soccer Hour with Texas A&M head coach G Guerrieri. All right, we are back. The final segment of the Aggie Soccer Hour with Texas A&M head coach G Guerrieri. I'm David Ellis, and beside me is Texas A&M head man G Guerrieri. Last week, who won, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, won his 500th game at Texas A&M as head coach of the Aggies, which coincidentally is the 500th game that Texas A&M soccer has won. And no other team in the SEC has close to 500 wins. And the Aggies were first to that mark. And that is a remarkable indication of consistency, of excellence. And you and the entire staff and the players deserve congratulations for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It was, and again, I can't take all the credit for that by any small measure. That's, you look directly at, at Phil Stevenson and the huge impact that he's had on this program. Don't go much further than Phil Stevenson, find Lori Stevenson, and
right.
then the huge impact that Lori had on this program for so long. And, and now Alyssa and Seth, and before that you've got, so many great coaches, and Thomas Dick and Curtis and Kurt Magnuson here, and gosh, I mean, there's just been so many great people over the years that all have been massive contributors, from players to support staff to athletic trainers to strength coaches to, you name it, and
right,
and it's been really neat having so many of them kind of touch base and
sure,
and kind of celebrate that momentous you step over that line. That's a big line to step over. So
it is.
There was a nice feature in on 12thman.com on it, and it talks about the other programs in the state of Texas, and then the other programs in the SEC, and it has their numbers, where they are and how many years that they've been going, which is all about the same, and a lot of them 10 years more than us.
Sure.
And kind of how far behind
right
they are. Which kind of puts it into focus about how successful this program has been. So it's humbling. It really is.
Well,
and it really it really puts numbers in comparison, and it's like, wow, okay.
Coaches and players know how hard it is to win a soccer match. It's very hard to win because you're playing good teams, and to win 500 of them says something right there. So, okay,
one of these days we'll sit down and really, but when you're in the woods, you
don't really notice it.
You're fighting bears, know, and
exactly.
And war eagles and longhorns, and oh my. So we've got those against us this week. So it's a matter of what's next.
The week starts out with the Auburn Tigers coming to town on Thursday. Again, that's going to start at 7:00, and Auburn is 9-0-1 on the season, depending on which poll you want to look at. They're ranked somewhere around number 5 in the country. They have scored. I had it just a moment
33
ago.
goals.
33 goals, and they have given
10
up
games.
In 10 games, and given up 2 goals. So 33 scored, given up 2. That tells you a little bit about the kind of team they have.
Well, in the time that we've been in the SEC, this is the best team they've had by far. This is by far the best team that Karen Hoppe has put together. You got to give them so much credit because they're athletic. They've got some key quarterback type players that are back in the mix for them. Anna Haddock, who is one of my favorite players. I wish she was playing for us, but she's one of my favorite players out there in that she's smart, she's skillful, she's crafty, she sees the game. I was ready for her to leave last year, and I thought she did.
Yeah.
I was sure she did, and I was sure she was drafted. I thought she went into the pros, and then I turned around and she's back on their stinking roster. I guess she did. I'm assuming that she did not sign with the pro team and then came back.
That was the deal. But there are 3 players over there that are like that for me. Anna Haddock is one of them. L.J. Knox is another, plays in the back. Mm-hmm. And then Maddie Prohaska, their goalkeeper. All 3 of those seem like they have been there for 15 years. I know they haven't.
COVID is
fortunately
the magic of COVID.
Yeah, they are seniors, but they're all very, very good players, and they have that experience, and that is so important for a soccer team to build around those kind of people.
Right, and they brought in some. And they have they've still got Thibodeau in the midfield who can hit from distance. But then they've got some players that have next level athleticism. You've got Olivia Woodson, who is a speed merchant. You've got Aaron Houston, who's a really strong athlete. You've got Contreras, who's a great athlete. You've got as I look through the lineup, you've got Driver, who scored some really important goals from this year. You've got Crosby, who kind of comes off the bench and causes problems. You've got different people who do different things for them, and so they've got a really good mix of different types of players. And so I'm glad that we have them at home because it gives us a little bit to kind of to grasp onto and to be able to play with the 12th man behind us. So it's an important part of what we're going to be looking to try to do is can we get contain them and keep them in check because they're so dynamic and they have so much that they can kind of jump off the page on you. Now the other game in Austin obviously is it's a derby match, and it's Aggies and Longhorns. It's Lone Star Showdown. It's the Cotton Industries Lone Star Showdown. That's going to be at 6 o'clock. It's got everything that you would want in a great rivalry game. It's it has points on the line as far as with the Lone Star Showdown between the two schools. And both of these games are, hugely important for us because they are, they've got SEC points on the line, and these are things that come into play for postseason. For postseason, Texas coming off of a loss to, their only loss of the season over there in Starkville. So they're gonna go on Thursday over back to Mississippi to play against Ole Miss, but I'm sure that they'll have themselves right and they'll be focused, and Angela will have them ready to go for us on Sunday night. Yeah,
Lexi Missimo is still one of their key players, 7 goals and 5 assists on the season. Trinity Byers out for the rest of the season with
unfortunately,
knee injury.
Yeah, it's too bad.
And but Jilly Simpkin is still there, and then of course they've got Mia Justice in goal. She's played 840 minutes.
She went down with an injury, but I imagine she could be back in time for the game on Sunday.
I'm sure she will be. Okay. But again.
But they're loaded. They've got a lot of terrific players. One of the key kids on that particular team is another Canadian player, a really good friend of Mia Pante, is Holly Ward. Plays also Canadian. Plays on the left wing for them. So some really, really good players. A lot of players who our girls grew up playing with and against. So two terrific games. We need folks out at both of them, especially especially Thursday night, 7 o'clock.
Absolutely. I'll remind you one more time, it's Auburn on Thursday night, 7 o'clock. If you can't make it out to Ellisfield, you can watch it on the SEC Plus network, or you can listen on 97.3 FM, the 12th Man mobile app, and Radio Aggieland app. And then on Sunday, it's the Texas Longhorns, 6 o'clock from Austin. We'll have the broadcast as well on 97.3 FM, 12th Man mobile app, and RadioAggieland.com. That's going to about do it for us. This copyrighted broadcast is an exclusive presentation of Learfield IMG College under broadcasting rights granted by Texas A&M University. Reuse of this presentation is prohibited without the express written consent of Texas A&M University and Learfield IMG College. Announcers are provided by Learfield IMG College and Texas A&M University. For G Guerrieri, I'm David Ellis. Thanks for listening, everybody, and gig 'em.